Glyn, thanks for sitting down with me today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Sean.
Glyn, congratulations on a fantastic event last week up in Clear Lake, Manitoba. By all accounts, seems like a great event, and lots of great dialogue and conversations were had. So congrats to you and your team for pulling that together.
Thank you, Sean, for moderating that very interesting panel discussion that we had.
Good conversations. Yeah. Very good conversations. So I think you're just a couple months short of hitting your 1 year into the job.
That's right, and two ways to look at it. It was exactly a year to the day that I made the decision to join the seed growers, and it was announced. And I actually entered into the position in October.
Nice. So can you tell me a little bit about what have you enjoyed most about the job so far, and maybe what's been the biggest surprise as you stepped into this position?
Well, first, I think it's perhaps useful to remind your listeners that I had been out of agriculture, away from that area for a better part of the last 6 or 7 years. I had a career with the Department of Agriculture and CFIA, but in the latter stages of that career, I moved to the Treasury Board and the Privy Council office, and that took me away from agriculture. So there was a bit of a before and after effect for me of coming into the job. And of course, the seed growers were a familiar organization to me because I was the responsible regulator for many years, as was the seed sector and the other organizations. And to answer your first question, what I like most about it, what I have enjoyed most about it, is the reason I think I chose this route rather than some others that were open to me, and that is the people. I think it's the professional standards, their creativity, and as Mike Sheffel, my colleague, often says, no matter what their differences, when they identify an issue that needs to be addressed, by all for the good of the industry, they pull together. Come together. Yeah. And I think that part has been that reality has. I've been reminded of almost on a daily basis. And in terms of surprise, well, perhaps it goes back to my before and after comment. I'd have to say there's a younger face and a younger attitude that is more prevalent than it may have been. I mean, there's always been a balance in terms of the those who let's say focus more on the history of the sector and less on the future, and those who are more focused on the future and less concerned with. So the balance between the two, I think, has shifted in my mind, just based on the conversations I've had and where people's interests lie. I would say it was probably the biggest surprise. That and the degree to which the so-called different tribes, whether they be the CSGA, the CSTA, Crop Life, CSAC, Canadian Seeds Institute, Canadian Plant Technology Association, grower groups, the extent to which the issues that are, I guess, front and center are binding rather than dividing is probably the biggest surprise. That it's actually difficult to find issues where there's intense fundamental disagreement, and which is a nice new reality for me, because when I was a regulator, I always found myself sort of at the locus of the differences.
Right. Now you get to focus on the benefit or the similarities. So we're here in beautiful downtown Vancouver at CSTA's annual meeting, 1 week after your successful annual meeting. Can you talk a little bit about what are the concerns that are top of mind for growers right now? You probably just heard from them last week. You've certainly talked about some of the issues going on within the seed industry right across Canada.
Right.
And you're now in the process of launching a new strategic planning process.
Yeah.
So can you talk, how does that fit in together with all of those pieces?
Well, I think the driver, probably the overriding concern of growers once they actually take the time to to look at the issues closely, is the potential for dramatic change. And what I mean by that is the decision made by the CFIA announced by the CFIA a year or so ago that they would initiate a review of the seeds program as part of their regulatory modernization agenda, and while there were some specific areas that they have indicated they want to focus on, the general message has been, the doors may be open, wide for a full review. Again, the uncertainty that has created has left many seed growers wondering whether the world that they know, the regulatory, the rules of the game and the roles and responsibilities are up for discussion and therefore potentially subject to change. So that's got their attention, and I think it's got the attention of the other seed organizations, and the fact that we are now collectively, as an industry, talking about what that future might look like and how we might as an industry like to see it unfold, has also got their attention. And so in effect, the dialogue, as often referred to as the Seed Synergy Dialogue, that was initiated about a year ago, has woken up, if you like, many seed growers to the fact, the importance of understanding not only that part of the seed regulations, which have historically been their primary focus, which is the seed certification system, but the entire regulatory framework. And this is happening at a time when there is fairly dramatic change.
So then, Glyn, from your perspective, Seed Synergy, as I know we're early on in the process, but what do you see as how might that look? What might be some of the disadvantages? What might be some of the advantages? Talk a little bit about that.
Seed Synergy, as I think I would describe it now, is effectively a project, with a beginning and a desired end that could, over the course of that project, evolve into something more than that. The project is been carefully developed amongst the six organizations that are part of the Seed Synergy project over the course of the last 6 months. And the primary, most of the efforts have been focused on establishing a process that would inspire confidence that an investment of time on the part of those who we would plan to engage and others would inspire confidence on their part that it would be worth the effort to engage. And I think we do have what I call a two-phase plan or two-tiered plan that begins with, excuse the expression, but getting your seed together. Right. So that's become a bit cliche recently, but ultimately what it means is who knows this? Who's going to know the seed sector better than the organizations that ultimately serve the principal actors in that sector, and they have historically coordinated their efforts from time to time, but never in a real systematic way. And I think there's recognition that there needed to be an effort to develop a set of principles, a set of objectives that all those organizations could subscribe to facilitate the equivalent of one voice where it mattered. But it was also is also equally recognized by that group that that doesn't give them social license. It doesn't even give them industry license, and that in fact this is a starting point for an engagement that would be broadened out to include most of the value chain or value circle, however you want to define it, and ultimately would have to inspire, instill some confidence in on the part of government in the merits of whatever would be proposed. And I guess that gets to the substance of it, which is essentially an aspiration that at some point in the next 18 to 24 months, a letter might go, say, from 25 to 30 organizations or more, requesting that the government undertake their own project to develop a next generation regulatory environment. Right. And what does next generation mean? Well, I think we'll find out when we'll get there. But clearly, all the basic best practices, best regulatory practices that you would want to imagine would be part of it. This is definitely a sector that has been to a large degree self-regulating for the better part of a century. The specifics have evolved over time, but the basic principle that the seed grower, seed trade are capable of establishing and maintaining industry standards and ensuring that their customers are protected and that ultimately they have access to innovative new products is something that is a reality that has always been there. And there's been a fairly steady disinvestment on the part of government as it relates to the seed system generally, whether that be at the basic research level, right through to the regulatory environment, and arguably the pendulum may need to either need to swing back again, or they may need to rethink their respective roles of that public-private partnership, which has existed for so long. And it's maybe the partnership and the who does what that really needs to be the principal subject of the discussion before all the details can be worked out. So I'm just giving you a flavor, really, of what some of the initial seed synergy discussions has been like. But I think I'm beginning to see, maybe too early to say what the outcome is, but you can certainly starting to feel a direction, and the direction of the conversation is really, the nature of it is really around the question: what's more appropriate for industry to do, and what's more appropriate to government to do? Have we got the balance right? If we don't, then what is that balance? And if it is a private-public partnership, then what is the contribution of government to that partnership? If we can get some reliable signal from government in that regard, that will give us a reference point for what the private sector investment will need to be. The biggest issue right now is, I would say, the absence of necessary leadership in government to respond to this. And I think we're halfway there. It's not that government's sitting on its hands, but I think it's going to have to raise its game just like we're going to have to raise ours. Yeah.
Right. So you've just got a couple of small things on the go now, Glyn. You're going to go do a strat planning process, a lengthy, in-depth strat planning process for the entire organization of the seed growers, and at the same time, the seed industry in Canada is reinventing and redefining itself. So if we try to take that and look at it from a 10,000-foot level, what would you pluck off as kind of three top priorities or three key goals that you want to accomplish out of that exercise?
Well, as the executive director of the seed grower, my mission is to serve the board, and the board sets the policy direction. So in order for the board to set the policy direction, I think it's important that we provide the board with the tools to do that, with the information to do that. And historically, the Seed Growers Board hasn't been asked, on a regular basis to wrap its head around some of the broader policy issues that are going to arise in this kind of exercise. So our number one priority at the office, so to speak, has been for the last 6 months, is to position our board to develop the capacity necessary for the board to play an active role. And why that's so important is that in order for the seed growers to carry their weight, to provide their share of leadership that's required in this exercise, they need a well-informed board. And a well-informed board is part of the challenge. The other part is having an empowered board. And if a board is to be empowered, then its membership has to be supportive of it. So, and that takes us to the strategic planning exercise and the need for engagement, perhaps well beyond the standard level of engagement, which generally touches, I would say, 10 to 20% of the seed growing community would be active on an ongoing basis in policy issues and seed certification issues and so on and so forth, and in setting direction. We have 3,500 growers, so 10% of 3,500 is 350, and maybe there's 500 to 700 at most. We're going to have to get that number up to a higher level of engaged seed growers, which is not easy, given most seed growers are essentially small to medium-sized businesses that are very busy and don't have a lot of time for this type of thing. So creating an engagement tool or a model for our strategic planning process that ensures a greater level of participation and awareness is probably job 2. And I think job 3 would be remaining engaged in the seed synergy process, providing the necessary leadership where and when asked for, and ensuring that this opportunity, which is an opportunity for the whole sector, is not missed. So in that order, I guess.
Perfect. Glyn, thanks very much for the chat, and I look forward to sitting down in the coming months to hear about the wild successes that we're having down both channels.
Something tells me you might be along for the ride, Sean.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Okay, thanks.